This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only and contains jokes, satire, and language that may not be suitable for all audiences. The views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not reflect the opinions of any employers or sponsors. The stories we share are our version of events. If you believe a story we share is about you and you remember it differently, please, by all means, go start your own podcast and tell your truth. Welcome to this week's episode of Gold Star Horrors, where our third podcast member, ChatGPT, is getting real thirsty for stars, learning every step of the way. I am your co host, Lisa Wilson,
And I'm Lisa Smith.
and we are going to get into it. This is a follow on. We are going to talk about what's an old hoe to do, career pivots after 40. You guys heard my story. We're going to hear Lisa's story today. I'm really excited about it. But before we get into that, it's Gold Star time. Lisa, what is your
That's
Gold
right.
Star experience this week?
My goodness, I got quite a bit of dating detectives in this week, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
I did listen. So there was a couple. I listened to a couple.
Okay.
One was about, a famous person that I think
Mhm.
you would know when you listen to it. And the other one was kind of dark and crazy about some demonology, but both extremely good, both on completely different scale.
Yeah.
And it was great. My gold
Love
star
it.
is I took time to listen to one of my favorite podcasts.
I'm so proud of you. My Gold Star this week is that Target came out with Scarecrow Crunch. And I only had
Scarecrow
one
Crunch.
Scarecrow Crunch trail mix. It is insane. And I only had one little small bag. So I'm a little bit hopped up on sugar. So you guys will just have to cut me some slack. But man, I look forward to it every single fall and I eat it the entire time. Not to be mixed up with the Jingleberry mix, which is basically the same thing, but just for Christmas colors. So this begins the cycle. So Lisa, I have been really looking forward to your pivot story. I have my paper and my pen, and I'm going to take notes, and I'm going to just we're going to change up the patterns of what we do a little bit because I really just want to give you the opportunity to share this story because I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I can't wait to hear it. So you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Lisa, we are going to cover your pivot story after 40, and I've been looking forward to it all week. So, take us back to the beginning and walk us through it.
All right. Well, what I can say is it was uncomfortable. It was scary. It was challenging. It was new on all levels for me, and unknown is not always easy. But now being kind of on the other side of some of the tougher times and starting my new chapter, it's equally uncomfortable and scary and challenging. But the difference is it's kind of exciting too. It's an opportunity for me to break some bad behaviors, some boundary issues that I had that really once tied and connected me to some unrealistic definitions of success. And I think also tying my self-worth and value to my job. That's one of the biggest things I've learned. I lived with that belief for many, many years in different roles, different companies, chasing every gold star along the way. And it literally almost killed me. So, with that being said, I want to kind of take you to the beginning of uh, the industry that I was in, where I started my career, and kind of how it transpired, how really the change transpired. So, I was actually in a pretty incredible industry for a few decades. You were as well. I think we can both admit that for the most part, it was fun and pretty freaking glamorous at times, sexy at times. I mean, you name it. I think we experienced a lot of really cool things. Everything was in excess. I feel also the fashion, the travel, the money, the private jets, the people we met, the parties we attended. Everything we did was on a large scale. I sometimes thought I had the best job on the planet. And you and I have talked about it multiple times, kind of what that looked like and felt like. It was like a drug. Like we couldn't get enough sometimes.
Yeah,
We worked hard and we played even harder. I can say that you and I definitely,
for
and then as
sure.
I, worked with other peers, it was the same thing. There was, unfortunately, though, kind of a dark side to that excess. And sometimes I wonder how we're still alive, to be honest. We could
Mm.
go days without sleeping just
Or
on sheer
eating.
drive alone. Again, yes, eating. We didn't just diet, we starved ourselves. Or we forgot we had to eat as a human being, right?
Yeah.
Because we were so focused on getting the job done or delivering a product. Image was everything. So much money was spent on keeping up and keeping up with the current fashion, the current trends, all of that. I look think like, oh my gosh, I would get paid and I would spend the majority of my paycheck there for a long time on brand new clothes, on expensive things.
To debt.
Yes, yes. So the excess was there also. It was good and bad. I was thinking back too about, sometimes where we would be at meetings and and it didn't matter what company I worked for. You'd be at meetings, you would be, travel, thousands of people there, meetings all day, just back to back to back. 501 hits, you're blazed off to you're in full party mode at 501, right? And there was sometimes so much alcohol being served that unfortunately a lot of people made some pretty stupid career mistakes in the process or landed themselves in the hospital or without a job on Monday, you know? So there was no balance to anything. And it truly was go big or go home. So, but it was fun. It was it was fun, it was exciting, it was new, it was different. And we wake up the next morning and do it all over again.
It was fun because we were winning.
And we were winning. Yes, that
Mhm.
is a really good point. You didn't just work hard, you gave your blood, sweat, and tears to it all, right? We were expected to do that though. So I think there's also like something innately part of our DNA that we would want to do that, but there was also an unwritten expectation to do that too. Had spent about 20 years of my life riding this roller coaster at level 10 every day, Mach 90 every year. And I truly felt I was at the top of my game. And I was really proud of where I was. Honestly, it was good until it wasn't good, right?
Yes.
And thinking back to the big event that probably tipped my crown the most, it actually had nothing to do with my professional career. And it really started the ball rolling downhill. It was personal. Um, and turning 40, getting a divorce, and for the first time in my life, being a single parent with a sweet little adorable human looking at you, depending on everything. And in that moment, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had planned my life out. I thought I was on this particular trajectory and I just got like a nuke bomb right in my life. Everything changed. Um which also meant that my priorities had to change. How I showed up had to change. What I was doing had to change. I couldn't travel anymore like I was traveling, 5, 6 days a week, gone all the time. I couldn't do it. And in order to maintain the roles that I had held there for many years, I had to. So I had to make some hard choices and maybe start looking at doing something maybe a little more local, something where I could be home at night or not travel as much, where could just, I wasn't worried about the title necessarily. I wasn't worried totally about the salary at that point. I was more worried about being able to be present and taking care of what I needed to take care of. So I started applying for a series of local companies, which usually meant owner ran small to medium sized organizations within the city that I lived in. I had been working my entire career for large national retailers on a pretty big scale, high volume, high profile. So this was absolutely going to be an adjustment for me. And I know you and I have had many conversations about what working for companies that have owners that are still highly connected to the business or engaged on a daily basis with the operations of the company, heavily involved, right? And kind of what that looks like. And it's not all bad, I think, but there are some shared similarities that I think over a course of 10 years working for a few of them, I definitely was able to see a common thread. It can be really rewarding and hard as hell at the same time. There's an unwritten expectation, I think, um, working for owner ran companies that you should be in their brain, number one. Number two, expected to care and work as hard as they think you should, which is never good enough
Mhm.
because they did it when they were hustling, starting their company, which I hats off to everybody who has started a company. It's hard. It's grueling. There's a lot of extra time, energy, and effort. You've got to be a visionary. You've got to be able to take risks, calculated risks, and not be afraid to fail, right? Like there's a lot of really cool things, but there's also this strange dynamic that happens where I think they want to scale, so they hire big personalities
Mhm.
to bring the talent to the table, but then they start not allowing you to have autonomy to do your job effectively. They'll micromanage, maybe communicate poorly, lead so passionately that doesn't necessarily it's not professional. Like there's a lot of things sometimes that can get in the way, and I want to be clear though, not every owner ran company is like this. These are some of my experiences, so like don't be mean. But because I've actually worked for some really great people too. So I definitely just wanted to kind of point that out. There was also a lot of interactions with owners that I had. I was so fortunate to have them. They were constantly trying to improve, constantly trying to grow, take care of their people and their business. And I really did learn a lot from a few of them. So, really, thankful for that opportunity. So, again, wasn't all bad. What I did start to find is that I wasn't fitting in to the self-appointed CEOs that had never worked another job outside of that job. Loosey-goosey processes maybe, biases, I don't know, your friend running the HR department, people sometimes just maybe not as qualified to be in the roles that they were in, making some pretty dang big decisions. So imagine me, big energy Lisa, coming in thinking that I could help solve all the problems. Didn't work so well. For the next 10 years, I tried to add value anywhere I could, but it was time and time again trying to shove a square peg into a round hole.
Mhm.
And I was trying to make something work that just wasn't going to work. I had to become the circle to fit into their box. I felt like it a lot of times. And I also found myself getting smaller and smaller to make them feel better. I had a good run. I learned a lot. I accomplished big things. So, through the journey from one company to the next, I had to figure out how to lead differently, communicate differently, and kind of be different. I was not bringing my authentic self to the table all the time. I was told I was intimidating. Took up a lot of space in a room. So I was used to working for like supernova leaders in the organizations I had worked for before. And I did go in expecting that same level of class, dignity, respect, professionalism. I mean, the list could go on, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't think that that was too much to ask. But I kind of found out the hard way that it's not like a given. I allowed myself to be put through some really horrible, toxic, unprofessional, hostile, like literal mind blowing situations because I simply needed the job. And as much as I tried to conform, it just wasn't me. I kept going, I didn't quit. I stayed time and time again trying to figure out how to make it work, trying to figure out how to do better, be better. And all along, I was fine, but I kinda lost who I was in the process. I lost what I brought to the table. I I lost what brought me there in the first place. It's kinda sad when I look back at it, but I'm so glad that I honestly have gone through it because now I know I'll never do that again.
Mhm.
It was a huge lesson. The minute that I knew that it was coming to an end, and that was I remember what I was wearing. I remember where I was. I remember the people that were in the room. And I remember being able to hear like the air conditioning going. And it was like so loud, but it really wasn't loud, but it was like loud. It like silenced everybody out. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it has been right in front of my face. And I kept trying to pass it off as I must have misunderstood. I must have not understood the situation correctly or thinking I could fix what I didn't even understand was broken. My box had kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I was suffocating and like slowly being erased right in front of my face. And I didn't see it then. I can see it now, but I didn't see it then. It knocked the wind right out of me. I was hurt. I was sad. I was confused and I was pissed. I was so mad.
Mhm.
I had spent all of this time making millions of dollars for these companies.
Mhm.
And all along, it was all high fives, shaking hands and kissing babies. You're amazing. Good job. Don't know what we'd do without you. Here's another promotion, more responsibility. I started to think like, okay, somebody is gaslighting me because this changed quickly in a sense. Who was it? Were my friends my friends? You know, like who can I trust here? Hmm, nobody, probably. Who was orchestrating all of it? Who jumped on the bus to save themselves?
Mhm.
All those like terrible things go through your mind. And then you're just like, I don't even know what I can and can't do. So there you are. You've lost trust. You lost faith. And everything you know is like not as you thought it was. You're completely on edge and you don't know where to turn. Because once again, the minute that you lose trust in the people that you really care about, there's like no going back. Like you're alone.
Mhm.
And I think like never a bad performance review, never a nothing in my file, never a coaching conversation, nothing. And then I realized, my God, I'm being quietly fired. I had asked if my job was at risk multiple times and I was told no. So let that sink in for a second. You kind of start to feel the vibe changing. You kind of start to see things are not making sense like they used to. So you're like, is there something going on? So you
Mhm.
ask the people you think you can trust, right?
Mhm.
And you're told, no, you don't have anything to worry about. So being quietly fired serves only cowards in leadership, I think. It's a tactic often used, unfortunately, where you are basically being told that we have to make a tough decision, you didn't make the cut, or you're no longer part of the long term plan. Okay, that's okay. That happens, right?
Mhm.
Businesses have to make hard decisions every single day. But the difference with using quiet firing is that they don't tell you that for months. They take away responsibility. They don't tell you why. They start ghosting you. They start making your work environment so terrible that nobody in their right mind would stay. They want you to quit so they don't have to fire you and pay out a severance or approve an unemployment claim or whatever the reasons are. So, like, I had red flags all over the place that I overlooked because there was always an excuse to justify them. So, look, decisions were being made in rooms I wasn't in or right in front of my face, which should have been my decisions to make, or my decisions were being overridden. Those are big red flags. Ad hoc meetings started happening when I wasn't in the room, but I always had been in the room before.
Mhm.
So invites were getting taken off your calendar. Touch bases and meetings canceled, right? Employees that used to be wallflowers at one time all of a sudden started getting keys to the kingdom, being asked to do big shit when they had track records of being asleep at the wheel for like years. So, also, when I would ask questions, I got super vague answers. And I can see now that that was just to withhold information. The 10th floor stopped talking to you. Little engagement or avoidance, which was not normal. My circle of influence kept getting smaller, and eventually, so did I, honestly.
Mhm.
And for the record, it's such a chicken shit approach to downsizing your talent levels using this method. Like, have some leadership courage, for God's sake. Have some compassion for what you are about to do. Business is hard. I get that. Times can get tough. Get that too. But how you treat someone during the tough times really matter. There's a human factor side of this equation that gets missed so often, and it's sad. People say we're in the people business, not when tough times happen. They make
Mhm.
really bad decisions on behalf of their people. I get it. You might need to restructure, reorganize. Fine, but you don't have to forget the impact it makes and the ripple effect it can cause human beings that once helped you, again, make millions of dollars. I mean, let me be clear, the company is always in control of how they roll out a mass layoff
Mhm.
or a smaller type of restructure plan. They have nobody else telling them what to do. So they're the ones that chose to do that or do it that way, right?
Yep. Yeah.
They don't have to treat you like shit. They do not have to ghost you. They do not have to degrade you. They do not have to string out the agony for months. They absolutely can be upfront, be honest, and give you time. They know months in advance of these types of decisions that have to be made. The conversations are being happen a long time before they actually pull the trigger. So they could use it wisely, right? I mean, I know it works because I've done it right. I've had to be the one that's had to lay off a lot of people. I've had to be the one that had to make those decisions on who was on that list sometimes. But I didn't have to treat them with disrespect. And I didn't. I was able to give them the opportunity a lot of times to, with approval, of course, from our CEO, to give them time to be upfront, to give them the opportunity to let them know what was going to be happening, give them the opportunity to know that they're going to have tough conversations with their teams as well, and kind of get their thoughts on how they wanted to either stay or exit.
Mhm.
That put power back into their hands and gave them the opportunity to say, you know what, I actually am not going to want to take this option, but this is how I want it to go down. I want to be able to tell my team. I want to be able to,
Yeah.
and it unfortunately, it can't always happen that way, and I get that, but when it can, do the right thing
Yeah.
would be my advice. We all know that didn't happen, and I didn't handle it well at all. I stayed too long, was trying to be loyal, again, trying to fix everything. I knew I didn't belong there anymore, but I just kept thinking back in my head, like, thinking about the promises that they would come true, that, if I just did this, it would make a difference. Um, but it didn't.
So, Lisa, you've covered a lot, and I got to tell you, you guys, it's killing me to live some of this over with Lisa because I was talking to her kind of throughout all these things that were happening. I could just shake my fist at the sky every time I would talk to her. But I think there's a couple of things I'd like to circle back to that I want to definitely highlight for people who are listening that might not have the context. So,
Okay.
the first thing you talked about is it was really scary changing jobs, and it was scary being afraid that at any moment we were in an industry in that toxic work relationship where we could lose our job. And it's because the context is that we worked in an industry that if you were fired from your last job, you were basically blacklisted in your
Yeah.
entire area. So, like,
True.
it was a well-known thing that you would do anything to avoid being fired, and
Mhm.
that kind of fed into that abusive relationship that your employer would have with you because everything was a threat that you were gonna be fired. Like, you could be
Yeah,
number 1 of
it's
the
a good
company, but the
point.
next day, they're like, "You could be fired." And
Well,
it
and they
was
know
rough,
everyone, right?
and
Like,
they know
so
everyone.
mhm,
Yes, it was very incestuous, and
mhm.
that was a real thing back then. Now I don't think so much. Like, I think that we're kind of aging ourselves, but again, this is pivots after 40, and that was something that I will say in today's environment is not as prevalent as it was to Lisa and I back in the day, in that industry. And then the second is the dark side. So I want to just highlight a little bit as a recovering alcoholic what I mean by the dark side. So Lisa and I mean, like she said, it was the best of times and the worst of times, and excess was real.
Yeah,
We worked for some leadership that
yeah,
loved to party so much that if you did not drink or participate in whatever shenanigans they wanted to participate in, you were also blacklisted,
yes.
right? So I remember literally hiding in a closet at a company event, calling my husband drunk and sobbing that I couldn't take another day. I wanted to come home. And you guys, when I tell you that she sent someone to come in and get me and drag me from the closet to go drink some more, that is an honest to God true story.
Like, thinking, "I cannot have another glass of alcohol." Number 1, it's not appropriate to go past, like, 2 drinks, right? Like, or
Yeah.
whatever. You
Because
have
you also
have
had to
your
keep it cool
Yeah, you had to keep
and
it cool
not
because
get
you never knew
fired.
who was gonna come and talk to you. And
Right.
I remember being like, "I've got to just put water in this glass and make it look like I and I had a boss that would come over and say, "What are you drinking?" And I had to, like, find what looked like water with lime on it or
With the
whatever, and, like,
lime,
yeah,
and then they
and
would tell on you. Like, if
yes.
someone learned in your
Yes!
little clique that you were not drinking, they would tell on
They
you.
would tell on you.
It
Yes,
was you
Lisa. It
guys,
was so
it
weird.
was for real, like, dark. And then there's the
Uh,
other element of messing around with people at work or having
man.
like, if your leadership team was all having extramarital affairs, you were expected to have an extramarital affair. And you guys, I know that some of you are like, "What?" They're like, "That's not true." You guys,
It's
it's
actually true.
true. So I mean, I never did. I was
I never did,
fortunate that I didn't have to like participate in those
but it didn't make us
shenanigans.
popular
No, we were not
in certain
popular.
circles, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, because we were narcs, right?
Yeah.
Like they would like, oh, well, like blah blah blah, or like they would put you in rooms with people you didn't know when you were traveling, like other store managers or whatever. And there were times that people felt like they had to have sex with their room person because if they didn't, they weren't going to be favored because they were in a power position and you were not in a power position. Like
Weirdest
you
thing.
guys, there's this whole undercurrent that led
Mm.
to our cult like belief in these roles that we were in. that unless you were living it, you would not ever believe it. And I truly don't believe that it exists today. But it was all part of feeding this thing that Lisa is talking about when she was in it like 100%. And then one of the things that you also said that I want to make sure, and I could be wrong, this is a question. So when
Mhm.
you went from working for the big brands and
Mhm.
traveling all the time, working local, did you take a cut in pay to work local? Was it the salary the
A
same?
huge cut in pay. A
Okay,
huge
so
cut in pay. So
let me ask you guys,
I was being
that's
abused for
why.
free.
I mean, you guys, this is what, like, when she is saying, similar to in my story, when I was like, when you get out of this big dreamy location and you have to come home and work locally, the salary is night and day, and it also fed into this anxiety. And
Yeah.
now she's a single parent. She's working for making half of what she was making. And now
Mhm.
she's working for owners who, I love Steve Jobs. I know a lot of people think he's a monster, but Steve Jobs always believed that you should let your talent be the talent, right? Like you
Mhm.
hired them for because they are big talent. And
Yeah.
Lisa and I both, I mean, Lisa, this is Lisa's story, but she really is a big talent and she does not make herself smaller for people. And you can imagine how threatening that might be when she comes walking in with her big sleeves and great hair and great makeup and works twice as hard as everyone around her. How intimidating that might be to an owner who doesn't want to be shown up in front of their office staff, right? Like
Yeah.
these are real things that impact the psyche of all of these different changes and things that happen as we kind of go through those. And then you know, the this thing that I wanted to kind of ask about as well is the red flags.
Mm.
So when you started seeing the red flags, like me, when I see red flags, I take my ball and go home. My sister this week, she was like, "You can't take your ball and go home over everything." I'm like, "I'm burning it down,
You were like,
done." But like Lisa is so loyal. She's always been
to a
loyal
fault.
to a fault. So when you started seeing these red flags, did you start looking for a lifeboat?
I mean, I did interview a little bit, like, I
Mhm.
did put myself out there, like and that was one thing too, like, I recruiters would call me all the time and I would never answer, or if I did answer, I would try to help them fill that role that they were looking
Yeah.
for,
I
because
mean,
I wasn't gonna leave.
like what I mean when you say give your life jacket to someone else, you never
Yeah.
saved it for yourself,
No, I
right?
never did. It's just so bizarre when I think about it, but it was like so normal to me. I'm loyal to my boss. I'm loyal to my team. I'm, machine and never thought to put my life jacket on myself. And,
No.
I mean, again, yes, I did. I did reach out, but it wasn't like to the level that I probably should have, knowing that it was going to come to an end because I kept thinking I could still fix it.
Yeah. And
So,
last but not least, before we go into the rest of the story, because we're not done yet, guys. It's exciting. We're going to get there. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about is our age and what that means to some of this red flag dynamic. And that
mm,
when Lisa and I, because of our age, we were really taught to trust superiors and to trust leadership. If they were the boss, you did what they said. Like that
yep.
is 1000% like what we were
Do what your
taught to
boss
do
says.
from my parents to my siblings to my friends to my work culture. It was the people in charge know what's best. So you need to do you need to trust them. So when Lisa is
Yeah,
going to leadership and saying, Am I in trouble? Is my job at risk? And they're saying no, she fucking believed them. Like, what?
1000%.
Why would she not? Why would she think they were lying to her? Like, it just never occurred to her, as it does most people our ages the first time we get really hung out to dry, um,
Mhm.
that people in leadership positions lie. It's a painful
For
lesson
many different reasons,
for
I
many
guess. I
different
don't
reasons. But look, like we never lied, right? So like
know.
I will tell you to your face that you're in trouble because I'd rather be on like when, and we're gonna do an episode on performance evaluations because Lisa and I's love language, but I always was trained, and I trained others, people should never be surprised when they're in trouble at
Correct.
work, like,
Correct.
ever, ever be surprised. Like, you should always man up and be as honest as possible, that's your job. But
Mhm.
coming from the top down, like, I never would have thought that that was possible or that that would happen. So, I mean, I can only imagine the gut punch after you had been asking them if that was gonna happen and they lied to your face. And even though you kept seeing the signs and the red flags and everyone's like, "Get out, ho!" But you're not because you're thinking, like in that horror movie vibe, that it's not you they're after. It's,
Yeah.
somebody else. And then you ended up overstaying,
Yep,
which
I
is
did.
also something else that we have to avoid.
Hey hoes, you're probably wondering what just happened to Lisa Smith's What's an Old Hoe to Do Part 1? Why did it just stop? Well, we are at it again. We are doing our best to get the episodes into smaller bites for you. So we are going to end Lisa's first part of her story here, and you guys will have to come back next week to hear part 2. All right, have a great day.
Hey hoes, we really appreciate you listening today. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to us. If you want more nonstop shenanigans, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, GSW_podcast. Follow us on Instagram at gold_star_whores. Or if you want to send us a story or ask for advice from a couple of seasoned Gold Star whores, you can email us at gsw4life5472@gmail.com. We'd also like to give Rob a special thank you for all your help with editing and helping us to create our logo. You really are an amazing Gold Star whore.